My brother, his wife, and little son, my nephew, have been living at my parents' house since 2019 because of financial issues. My nephew's spoiled. He misbehaves and gets away with everything. He throws epic temper tantrums if things don't go his way. I have a preteen son, and every year when his birthday party's over and everyone gets ready to go home, my nephew collects the gifts my son received and throws a tantrum till we let him go home with them. My sister-in-law would spend an hour complaining about their financial situation and try to convince me to let my nephew keep all the gifts because he saw them. I tried to hide them in another room, but my nephew got access. I suggested making a list of the toys my son received so my brother and sister-in-law would buy similar stuff for my nephew, but they'd end up leaving with them. My son would feel devastated and sad afterward. Not just that, but in a matter of a week, we'd visit my parents' house and see most of the toys destroyed. This year, as my son's birthday rolled around, my husband straightforward said, "Listen, I don't want what happened in the past couple of years to happen again. It's time we put an end to your brother and his wife's enablement. Your nephew shouldn't be invited if you don't want issues at the party. I'm just letting you know if they bring him anyway, I'm not taking the party over to my parents' house 3 hours away." So I called my brother and let him know that he could either leave his son at home and attend my son's birthday party with his wife or not attend if he didn't want to. He hung up, then called again in a few minutes and was livid, asking if I was serious about what I said about excluding his son from his cousin's birthday. And I said the reason for that was because of my nephew's misbehavior. He laughed, saying, "What misbehavior? He's a kid, for Christ's sake. Go ahead and name one kid who doesn't misbehave." I said that what his son does, which is taking my son's birthday gifts, then crying and yelling his way into leaving with them, was not fair because those gifts were given to him and he shouldn't be guilted into giving them away on his birthday. My brother started talking about his struggle to buy his kid new toys and said he and I should encourage the kids to share. I said no, everyone deserves to receive gifts and not be expected to share or give them away. I said he and his wife are welcome to attend, but my nephew isn't. He first begged and promised he wouldn't let his son touch anything, but then got angry and said he was appalled, entirely appalled by my coldness and cruelty to exclude my nephew like that. He said his son understands what's going on, and once he tells him his aunt excluded him from his cousin's birthday party, I shouldn't act surprised because neither he nor his son would forget how I treated them, and then hung up. Mom roasted me about my decision, saying I was causing emotional damage over a few gifts. She and Dad wanted me to apologize and invite my brother's family. Everyone's the idiot here. I'm sorry, you've allowed them just to take your son's presents in the past? What on earth? How can you let your son down so badly? You should have stopped them, threatened to call the police, and followed through if they still took them. Also, you shouldn't have invited your brother and wife to come without their son. I fully understand not inviting the son, but at that point, you just disinvite them all. Did you really think they were going to leave their kid with a sitter while going to a kid's party he wasn't invited to? Your brother and his wife suck. I feel deeply sorry for their son because they are doing him a great disservice and they shouldn't be stealing from you. OMG, this? What is wrong with OP? Why didn't she just push ahead with the party and simply not mention it to her brother? And when they eventually found out, be like, "Why did you expect to be invited? Your family ruins my son's birthday every year by stealing his presents." Also, the son will remember this and grow up to hate his parents for allowing his toys to be stolen every year. Sorry, but you are the idiot for ever allowing the kid out the door with even one gift years ago. You talk about stopping the enablement when you are just as much a part of it. This should never ever have happened. Your poor son. What an epic parenting fail. Do not invite him to the party. I am actually horrified you invited the other two after how they treated your son. Shame on all of you. My husband and I have a toddler son who my husband never sees, like once a week Sunday for 5 or 6 hours. I don't mind having to take care of the baby on my own, but I'd like a little bit of time with my husband. I'm getting lonely. The reason my husband isn't present, he works 16 to 20 hours a day, 2 jobs to provide for our family. Now, he doesn't necessarily need both, but he has said that he wants us to be comfortable. He previously had a part-time job as well and did Uber Eats for extra cash. This continued until I forced him, ultimatum, to cut back on work because it wasn't necessary. I convinced him to scale that back. For more than a year since then, it's been this 16 to 20 hour, 5 to 6 days a week, 2 jobs. He naps throughout the weekend and so does my son, which means they never see each other, and I rarely see him. I asked him to just stick with his highest paying one, offered to show him the budget. At first he refused since he didn't care about that. The man doesn't even know the password to check the balance, even though he's the only one contributing to it. But the thing is, with the one job we wouldn't be living as comfortably as we are now, but we still be getting by. He'd be making $5K a month, compared to a little less than $9K now, and our monthly expenses would be $2 to $3K a month. Still reasonable, in my opinion. Reason for the post? When I laid it out for my husband, he said I was selfish because the extra money goes towards my son's future tuition. I said that I didn't care about that, and I just wanted him home. He got all upset and started yelling, that I had no right to be mad at him since I just lay around all day, and I was an idiot for trying to take money from my son. That was last Sunday. He hasn't said anything but, "I told you not to make lasagna anymore," one day. Other than that, he said nothing. He just walks away when I try and have a conversation. I was making minimum wage when I quit my job. If I got a job, he isn't going to quit his second. He doesn't want to under any circumstance. He literally wants me at home with our son. So I suggested both of us working one full-time job, but he said no to that during our argument, / him yelling at me over wanting to see him more. What? I feel like there's something more to this. He has some issue that probably requires therapy to uncover. But anyway, you are not the idiot. My dad was a truck driver, and we never saw him. The only memories I have of him growing up was him yelling at us for waking him up, middle of the day on a weekend, because he's napping, and randomly trying to enforce himself as a father figure by teaching us something. But how can you learn from somebody when you have no respect for them? He was just a man who turned up to ruin our weekends. By the time I was 10, we would actively avoid him. We would hear his car, turn off the TV, and leave the living room so we wouldn't have to deal with him. As a teen, I completely stopped all interaction with him. This is your husband's future. Not the idiot. He just doesn't seem to want to be around you or his son that much. I'm sorry to say that, but that's how it looks to me. Doesn't he miss spending time with you as well as his son? He needs to understand that he might be providing for the future, but he's missing his kid growing up and will probably end up with a divorce because that's not a marriage. I'd say you need counseling, but I'm wondering when you would squeeze it into his schedule. I'm sorry, OP. He doesn't appear to want to see you more. If you're feeling lonely, maybe you should get a job. You would meet people and build your self-esteem. Worst case scenario, you would be prepared to leave his sorry ass. I get wanting to save for your son's future, but at what cost? When he's gone, the only thing your son will remember is that you were there for him and his father never was. Back in February, I, nearly adult female, asked my dad if we could take a weekend trip for Halloween to this haunted house event the two of us have talked about going to before. He said he wasn't sure he could afford it, but if I saved enough money, we could go. He would cover some of it too. I saved up the money by early September and told him as much. He then brought up the subject about how cool it would be to include his stepdaughter, and it would be a nice bonding trip for all three of us. He asked me how I felt about that, and I told him I didn't want to include her. I wanted it to just be the two of us. He asked why, and I told him we never do stuff, just the two of us anymore, and I want that time with him. He said I get plenty of time with his wife. I said she's not him, that I wanted more time for him and me, not everyone together, not me and his wife or me and his stepdaughter. He told me okay, it could just be us. Then his wife blabbed because he didn't tell her I had said no. Then his stepdaughter wanted to go, and he told me he couldn't say no to her after that. So I told him to just forget it. I bought myself some stuff with the money I saved. This upset my dad and his wife and his stepdaughter. My dad and his wife told me I responded like a child instead of an almost adult. His stepdaughter said that I was so mean. Why would I do that? She was looking forward to spending the weekend with us at the haunted house. I told my dad I saved it for the two of us to go alone, but he has made it clear he doesn't want that time with just me anymore. And since that's how he feels, I am sick and tired of time with his family. He shouldn't worry because I'll be gone soon, and he can spend all the time he wants with them, and the childish and mean one won't be living here in a few months. He asked why I couldn't just wait and do something else with him. Why spend the money? Why break the plans like that? It's not the first time I've tried to do something with him, and he automatically involved everyone, or just a stepdaughter in it. And I even told him I missed hanging out, just him and me. So it doesn't do anything. I know his wife is upset because her daughter is hurt. After all, she knows how badly I didn't want her there, and she's also not going now. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. Kids in all families are allowed to want one-on-one time with their parents. It is good and healthy and important, and it's even more important in blended families. I'm sorry your dad reacted this way. You shouldn't be covering any of the cost of this trip at all, and your dad and his wife are idiots by downplaying your need for one-on-one time with your father. Your dad wants to include a stepdaughter, then he can save up for that trip. Don't you dare be forced to spend the money you saved for a father-daughter trip on someone else if you don't want them to join. You tried, he passed, and you spent your money on things you wanted. Good for you. Not the idiot, but the rest of your family is if they think a kid your age should fund a trip. No way. Not the idiot. Your dad went and lost his backbone and tried to alter the plans you made that he already agreed upon. This is the type of stuff that happens when you don't respect someone's wishes, especially after expressing why the plans were what they were. You made plans. You are putting up the money, majority, so it's your decision. They don't want to respect that. The trip gets scrapped. Now nobody wins. People will either learn to respect your time and wishes, or they will lose you. It's that simple. I, 25 female, Asian, have been with my fiancé, male, 27 white, over a year. His mom has been overbearing since day one. For example, the first time I met her, she asked me if I was pleasing her son enough and wanted to know other intimate details. She also always calls him attractive and asks him to touch his arms or abs, which he doesn't think is weird, but that's a story for a different day. I want readers to understand the kinds of things she says out loud. She has lately, the past 2 months, been more hostile toward me whenever we are around her, saying that I am getting in the way of her relationship with her son and that I need to let him be alone with her more. My fiance tells her that he wants to spend time with me when he's not working, so she can either see both of us or neither of us. The last time we saw her, we were eating dinner at her house with her new husband, and my fiance's brothers went out of nowhere. She said, "I hope your children look only like their dad." This was out of nowhere, but that's how she always is. I said, "Well, we aren't going to be having kids anytime soon, so you don't need to worry about that." To which she replied, "Well, I don't want mixed grandkids because they're always so ugly when features are mixed like that." Everyone got quiet, and I didn't even know what to say. Eventually, she got up and offered everyone dessert. Soon after we left and in the car, I expressed to my fiance that I was hurt by what she said and that he didn't stand up for me. He said he didn't want to hurt her feelings and that she didn't mean it to be hurtful. I told him that if we have children, she will never be able to see them or be around them because I don't want our future kids to be around someone like that. He's mad at me now and keeps telling me that I need to see things from her perspective and that it's unfair that I would put him in a position like that by not letting her see our kids one day. I told him that it didn't matter right now, but that I would not budge on this when the time came. Am I the idiot here? I warn you now, when you marry this guy, you are marrying his mother too. You are not the idiot. Your fiance's relationship with his mother is giving me mega emotional creepy vibes, like his mother most likely has been using him as a fill-in for his father for a very long time. I would try to see if he would be willing to go to therapy. A professional might help him see how weird and unhealthy it is for a mom to call her son attractive. Like to him, it's probably normalized, but obviously, that's weird and creepy to anyone else. Oh, she's not marrying the son. It would never be a marriage. He's already fully committed to his mother. If she goes through with this relationship, she accepts that she's the toy/incubator, and mommy will always be number one. If they have kids, mommy will raise his children, OP will never have a say. He'll only do whatever makes mommy happy because she's his number one in his life. That will never change. Not the idiot. Fun story time. My wife is 1/4 Native American, and it's very obvious in her facial features and skin color. My mother was at the hospital when my first daughter was born, and I put my daughter in my mom's arms about an hour after birth. The very first words out of my mother's mouth were, "Just what I needed, a half-breed grandbaby." My mother did not hold, speak to, visit, or see my daughter again until she was 8 years old, and after that, it was infrequent and monitored. As a result, my daughter is an adult today and has probably spent less than 20 hours with her grandmother throughout her entire life. When you make such comments about your grandchildren, you immediately forfeit the right to have a relationship with them. My mother did. He should too. Someday your fiancé is going to have to choose between protecting his children and making his mother happy. If you don't have faith that he'll choose his children, you may want to evaluate whether he's father material. I have 3 daughters, but my husband and I work a lot, so my niece, 19, has been our babysitter for a few years. She's very responsible, and she has really earned my full trust. I love her almost as a daughter, and she even has her own room in my house. We have a big house with a pool, and my niece usually swims there with my daughters. A few days ago, while my daughters were at school, my niece was sunbathing in a bikini, and I saw that she had a small tattoo on her butt that said Daddy's Girl. I know her boyfriend, and I was honestly surprised that they have this kind of relationship. I asked her if my daughters had seen it, and she said that not yet. I told her that she couldn't let that happen, so she would have to cover her butt in front of them. She told me that none of her bikinis would cover it up, on her right cheek. So I said she couldn't enter the pool with them and would have to supervise my daughter swimming from outside. She said that it's not a big deal because the tattoo does not say anything inappropriate, and that if the girls ask, she could tell them that it was about her real dad. However, I don't think my oldest daughter would believe that. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Hate to break it to you, but your daughters probably know what it means anyway. The internet does exist after all. Sparing them from one tattoo isn't going to make a difference either way. I really don't think this is worth burning bridges over. You'll change nothing other than harming your relationship with your niece. Not the idiot. Your kids, your house, your rules. And if she doesn't follow the rules, then she can't use the pool. So without knowing the tattoo size, is this something that maybe she can cover up with a large Band-Aid? Or maybe even wearing different bottoms at the house when she's around your children? If I were the niece, I would quit babysitting them. OP, you are the idiot. Sheltered kids often go crazy when they are adults. Be open and answer questions if your daughters ask. But to immediately overreact over a what if they see it, to the point of banning her, when you just said she's like a daughter to you, well, I can see how your daughters will rebel already.